I don't want to get to what happens at the end of the trial, but I do want to bring up Laura goes for old reliable, but not that reliable, but a lot of people use it, the insanity plea. Now, when she does, this is kind of unsettled at this point, right? This is not something that has been used in U.S. courts a lot. Is this just a Hail Mary for her, the insanity plea? Do you think maybe she kind of dissociated? What do you think?
It was a relatively new thing. The first successful use of the temporary insanity plea was in 1859. This guy called Dan Sickles, who was a U.S. congressman from New York, he shot his wife's lover, who happened to be Francis Scott Key's son, and he got off on a temporary insanity plea based on something called the unwritten law, which was that certain crimes of passion are excusable, especially a man defending his wife who had been debauched or something like that. And so juries were very sympathetic to this. It's such an outrage to this man's honor that the fact he lost control of himself and killed the libertine who ruined his marriage. And there were a couple of other high-profile cases in which, very similarly, the unwritten law was invoked. And so Laura's lawyers sort of had an idea, well, we can sort of twist this and use it in Laura's case. But of course, there are differences. I mean, for one thing, she's a woman and not the man. And for another, she didn't kill her rivals, she killed her lover. So the analogies are not so great. But they based it on the fact that she, in her letters, there's a lot of evidence of this. In her letters and her testimony, she believed that God had married her and A.P. Crittenden in heaven before they were born. So in a sense, she thought that she was married to A.P. Crittenden in the eyes of God and that Clara was the adulteress. As a matter of fact, she accused Clara of being an adulteress, and Clara was like, what? What are you talking about? So they said that, this was a time when it looked to her like he and Clara were going to reconcile after a time apart. And so she saw the destruction of her marriage in heaven and lost it all and shot him. But they knew that was not going to be enough. So they also had another precedent for temporary insanity, which was a case where this woman named Mary Harris, she thought that her fiance was going to marry her, but he ended up marrying somebody else, and she kills them. And the excuse was dysmenorrhea, which is basically irregular menstruation. So they reduced it in the way that Victorian doctors often did to some gynecological issue that made her lose her mind. And this case was also invoked because Laura also had that kind of problem. So they thought that, well, maybe these two together would combine to a successful temporary insanity plea. And I guess I shouldn't reveal whether it succeeded or not.